Welcome back to the Prez Podcast. I am your host, the Prez, and as always, my wonderful sidekick and son, Kian, is here to go over Thursday night's matchup between Detroit and Green Bay, and then also give you all of our picks or winners, or who we think's going to win on Sunday and Monday. So let's get into it. Let's start with Detroit going back into Lambeau Field again, beating the Packers for the fourth straight time. 34-20. Not fourth straight time in Lambeau, fourth straight time overall in the series. This game started out a little dicey for Detroit. There was an early pick, but they turned it around quickly, built a big lead of 24-3, and held on in the end to beat the Packers 34-20. I thought the key unit for Detroit was their offensive line, and they dominated this game. And they were able to run the ball. David Montgomery with 3 rushing touchdowns. They looked like they could do whatever they wanted on offense after that first drive. As for Green Bay, Jordan Love looked to have another bad first half. A lot of pressure from Detroit's defensive line. They're in his face all game long. And they changed it up, started getting the ball out of his hands quicker, and it had a better second half. But it's a bad trend for Green Bay. I know David Bakhtiari was out, and Allen Jenkins was out. So there's some things that Green Bay needs to work on and fix, obviously, to be competitive in the division. Good for them is the other two teams are 0-3. So it's just them and the Lions so far. It's still early yet, and a lot of things can happen. For Detroit, this is what you wanted. You could have easily been 4-0. You could have won that game that went to OT against Seattle in week 2. You have to be feeling good. Their schedule for the next 5 weeks looks pretty light. So they have a good chance to go on a run and make a case for a top seed in the NFC if they keep playing at this level. It'll be interesting to see. And for Green Bay, it's just got to be progression. And Jordan Love's account, we got to see what he can do. He's still learning. It's his first year as a full-time starter. So there's going to be some peaks and valleys. And it'll be interesting to see what they do. But I like their chances to have a winning record.
Yes, I think that in this game, the Packers' offense it wasn't working enough. It wasn't working that great. With the injured O-line, they allowed a lot of pressure, and because of that, Jordan Love wasn't able to make plays, and they weren't able to do that much. They also didn't have Aaron Jones playing that many snaps, so they couldn't rely on running the ball as much. And also on the Lions' offense, however, they were able to get the ball down the field. They were able to make those plays. Dave Montgomery with a big game, lots of yards, lots of touchdowns. Didn't have Jahmyr Gibbs play as much, but Dave Montgomery did have that big game, and the Lions offense was able to get those 34 points.
Yep. All right, so next we're going to do our picks, and we're going to do our 5 big games of the week, and then we'll do our quick picks for the rest of the week. So starting off, it's our first overseas game, our first London game, and a kind of an interesting matchup with two teams that are trying to be upstart and trying to change the direction of their franchise, and that is Atlanta versus Jacksonville, or should we call them the London Jaguars because they play over there so much. But it's Atlanta versus Jacksonville at 6:30 Pacific Standard Time. A little early for me. I'm not going to lie. Not happy that it's on ESPN either. But that's all right. This game is going to be very interesting. Atlanta has that 1-point win over Green Bay. They had a bad showing against Detroit last week. And I'm being really curious if a lot of teams are going to take that game plan that Detroit employed against Atlanta, where they just loaded the box and they said, hey, Desmond Ridder, beat us. And he couldn't. And I really don't think he can. I really think that he's going to have issues. But the good thing for Atlanta is they're going against that horrid Jacksonville Jaguars defense. Jaguars defense is a wreck. They gave up 37 points to a very young and incomplete Houston team last week at home. And Jacksonville's offense seems like it's out of sorts. I don't think Trevor Lawrence has played that bad, but his receivers aren't helping him out that much. They have a lot of drops, a lot of close touchdown calls against the Chiefs in week 2, and it's just not clicking. I think they're producing yards, but they're not producing points. So I think this game actually is going to be a high-scoring game. I know we predicted some shootouts before and been wrong, but maybe I'm hoping, crazy things happen in these games in London, and I think these games end up being pretty close. But I'm going to go out on a limb, and I'm going to say, Atlanta does more in the run game, and I think Jacksonville is just a little bit away. So give me Atlanta in London against the Jaguars' second home.
Yeah, I think that Atlanta, against a bad run defense in the Packers, they were able to pull out and win in what you could say is maybe a better team than the Jaguars. And with the Jaguars' defense, them having maybe a worse defense than the Packers, Atlanta, their offense will be able to seize that opportunity to run the ball and get points on offense.
Next up, we have. Oh, what was your pick? You picked
Atlanta.
No, okay. Make sure I heard that right. All right. Next up, we have the game of the week in my mind. Great divisional matchup. Two teams coming off big wins. It's the Dolphins going to Buffalo, not in the cold. Huge benefit for Miami. Not going up there when it's wintry cold in Buffalo. But the crowd in Buffalo will be crazy for this game. Buffalo could easily be 3-0 if they played a little better in week 1 against the Jets. Miami obviously coming off their 70-20 shellacking of the Denver Broncos. But let's not forget what Buffalo has done the last 2 weeks, outscoring their opponents by a total of 75-13. So they've been on a good streak as well. Miami's offense, though, is on pace to break a lot of records. Problem for them is they're playing a divisional opponent in the Buffalo Bills that knows them very well and has played well against them defensively. The problem is Jordan Poyer is going to be out for this game. They still don't have Von Miller back. And I know their defense has played well against two not-so-great quarterbacks in Jimmy G and Sam Howell. So it's really interesting how to look at this matchup for me. And I do think that Miami's defense has improved since last year. I think that they are playing better. I do think that they do have a tendency to give up some passing yards. So I do think this will be more of a shootout. But I'm just going to go with the really hot team right now. I think that Miami and Tua are just on fire. And I feel like if Tua can continue to get the ball out quickly and not get hit with pressure, I think they're going to be able to score points and pull out the win in Buffalo.
Yeah, my first gut decision was taking the Bills because I think that their offense is good. They're at home, but with the Dolphins, I think with how potent their offense it is and how potent their offense has been, I think that if they can have a consistently score on offense, and if their defense does enough to slow down the Bills on offense, then they could outscore them and win the game.
Okay, next up, another divisional game. Two teams with winning records. It's the Washington Commanders at the Philadelphia Eagles. Everybody remembers that game last year when Philadelphia was on the run and then they lose to the Commanders in the upset late in the season last year. It'd be interesting. Washington is coming off a huge home defeat. Sam Howell threw 4 picks, never got into a rhythm, and just kind of out of sorts. Good news for Commanders fans, what I'll say this about Sam Howell. He's not afraid. He's a playmaker. He's going to try to make plays. He's going to try to do stuff. He's not afraid to sling it and put it in there. He's not playing scared. He's not seeing ghosts. And, even after the 3rd pick, he was still trying to make plays. I don't think that result is going to go to Sam Howell's head. I really don't. And I think these divisional matchups are interesting. And, Washington has a really stout front four, and they can do well maybe against that Philadelphia run game. I mean, the fact that Philadelphia was able to run for 200 yards against a really good Tampa Bay team tells you everything you need to know about that Philadelphia run game. They're running the ball with DeAndre Swift, and they are just lining up and doing it between the tackles. And they're not doing it, I don't feel like it's a bunch of read option, it's a bunch of trick. I don't think Jalen Hurts is rushing a bunch. It's just lining up, and we're just going to beat you running the football. I think their offense is coming alive a little bit more. And their defensive line and defensive interior is going to wreak havoc on Sam Howell. I think Washington played a little bit better than they did against Buffalo, just because I think they'll bounce back and be a little more creative offensively. But I like Philadelphia to win this game, and I think they win it easily by at least 2 touchdowns.
Yeah, Philadelphia is, again, they're 3-0. They're a top team in the league. Just great overall. I don't think that unless they can have a miracle upset, maybe some turnovers by Philadelphia, I don't think that Washington will win this. They are just not as good of a team. So Philadelphia, I have them winning.
Okay. Next up, another divisional matchup. This one in the NFC South. Tampa Bay travels to New Orleans. Both teams 2-1. The big question going into this game is, will Derek Carr play or not? We don't know. It's going to probably be a game time decision in the morning with that sprained EC joint in his throwing shoulder. If Jameis plays, it's a chance to get back to his old team in Tampa Bay. I really like the Bucs if he plays. And in fact, I really like the Bucs no matter who plays quarterback, if I'm being honest. An injured Derek Carr, an injured or a Jameis Winston, that offensive line for the Saints is not playing well. I think they'll give up some pressure to Tampa Bay's pass rush, and I think the Bucs will do enough offensively. They've been really good about not turning the ball over. The problem is they have troubles running the football. This game is obviously going to be a low-scoring game. And these games are always heated matchups. We know something's going to happen between Mike Evans and Marcus Lattimore. It happens every year. Why not this year?
It's Marshawn or?
Maybe it's Marshawn. Yeah, Marshawn Lattimore. Good call. It happens every year, so it'll be really interesting. But I just think Tampa Bay is going to do more. I know Alvin Kamara is coming back. It's his first week after saving his suspension. I just think they are in a better rhythm right now. And welcome our cat, Tuffy, to the program. Anyway, so give me Tampa Bay to beat the Saints, but in a close one. Maybe 16-13.
Yeah, this is also tough because it's a divisional game, and they're both teams that we don't really know how good they truly are. But the Saints, with Alvin Kamara coming back, I think that if they rely on the run game and if that can do well, then I think that they could pull this one out.
Picking the Saints?
Yeah.
All right. Our last preview game and our last divisional game, it's the Ravens going to the Cleveland Browns. The Cleveland Browns, as of right now, have the best defense in the league. I don't know if anybody watched that clip from Myles Garrett against the Titans last week, where they couldn't block Myles Garrett at all. He had 3.5 sacks in that game. And he's just, Jim Schwartz is just giving him freelance. And in certain passing situations, they're just saying, Myles Garrett, go ahead and line up wherever you want. So the Titans decided, hey, we can't block you with the tackle. We can't block you with the tackle and guard. We're going to bring in tight ends to help chip. In fact, we're going to bring in 2. So Myles Garrett lines up on one side, and he decides, I'm going to go on the other side. And the Titans move over there. The tight ends decide to move over there. And then he's like, nah, I'm going to move to the other side. And the Titans end up getting a delay of game because the tight ends for the Titans couldn't decide where to go. It was a complete destruction. They held them to under 100 total yards. Amazing. For the Ravens, they had that horrible defeat against the Colts at home last week. This is a big divisional game for them. They really want to get back on the right track, and offensively they kind of seem out of sync. But they have so many injuries. Beckham Jr. is going to be out. Rashad Bateman's going to be out. Left tackle Ronnie Staley is going to be out. You don't want offensive linemen. I think their center is going to be out also. You don't want offensive linemen missing against Cleveland and Myles Garrett. I know you have the most dynamic quarterback with running the football in the league, in Lamar Jackson, but still, it doesn't matter. I don't know. I think this game is going to be really, really tough for Baltimore. I think Deshaun Watson's playing better. I know he hasn't practiced that much. He hurt his shoulder as well, but I think he will play. I like Cleveland in this game. I think they win by 10 points.
I agree. I think that a tough divisional game for Baltimore against a good defense, good complete team. I don't think their offense is going to get going. So Cleveland Browns, I think they're a more complete team, underrated team going into the season. I have them winning.
All right. Those are our preview games, our big games for the week. Let's get into our quick hit picks for the rest of the weekend lineup and Monday. All right, next up, the toilet bowl for the weekend. Denver, 0-3 at Chicago, 0-3. Who knows what's going to happen? It's going to be gross. But I do, oddly enough, think the team that gave up 70 points is better than the other team. So give me the Broncos.
Yeah, I think that the Broncos just. I mean, they had a slightly better season last season. The Bears have not looked good at all, but Russell Wilson has looked okay, so I have them win.
Next up, we got the Bengals who got their first win last week against the Titans. Both teams kind of hurting, limping into this game, but I do think the Bengals are a little bit healthier. I think the Titans have more issues, especially in their secondary. So I'm going to take the Bengals to win this one on the road and get back to 500.
Yeah, the Bengals with their win last week, I think they're gonna keep bouncing back, and I think that they are going to beat a worse team than the Titans.
Next up, we got the Los Angeles Rams going to Indianapolis to place the first place Indianapolis Colts. Didn't think I'd be saying that after week 3, but there they are in first place. Anthony Richardson coming back to play this week. He's been practicing the last couple days. For Rams, the questions is their offensive line. I know Richardson's coming back and the Colts have been playing better, but I'm going to take the head coach that's got more experience. Give me the Rams in Indianapolis.
Yeah, I think the Rams still going to the season weren't talked about enough, and they are just a bit better than we thought, so I have them win.
Next up, the battle of two other 0-3 teams. Schedule makers, what are you doing? Like they would have known this was going to happen. Anyways, it's the Vikings. Don't have a win yet. Going down to Carolina. It looks like Bryce Young will be playing. I don't think it matters. The Vikings finally get right. I think Kirk Cousins and Justin Jefferson have big games and get a win down in Carolina. Give me the Vikings.
Yeah, I agree. The only way I see the Vikings losing is their offense doesn't get going and they turn over the ball a bunch. Potentially the Panthers win, but for now, Vikings have a better team, so I have them win.
Next up, we got Pittsburgh going down to Houston to play C.J. Stroud. The Texans, C.J. Stroud got his first win as a starter against Jacksonville last week. For him, unfortunately, missing a lot of offensive linemen. Larry Tunsil's not going to be playing this game, and they're going against that Steeler pass rush. T.J. Watt, Alex Highsmith in their backfield all day long. Give me the Steelers.
Yeah, Steelers with their defense. Houston, not much of a proven team. They did beat the Jaguars last week. C.J. Stroud looking good, Tank Dell looking good. But still, I think the Steelers are a more complete team, more proven team. I have them win.
Next up, we got the Las Vegas Raiders getting a home game in Los Angeles as they play the Chargers because we know it's going to be all black, silver and black down there. Doesn't matter, though, because the Raiders, I don't think Jimmy G's playing this week, so it really question is Brian Hoyer, Aiden O'Connell starting, unknown. I don't think it matters. I know the Chargers are having their own injuries. Mike Williams out for the year. But I think the Chargers and Justin Herbert going to win this game. It'll be probably closer than we think, though. But give me the Chargers.
Maybe. Yeah, I agree. The Chargers and the AFC West matchup, I think that they're a way more complete team. Even with Mike Williams out, I think that they will win.
Next up, we got the Patriots going to Jerry's World to play the Cowboys in Dallas. Patriots are an interesting team, and I think they're going to be one of those teams. They have a really tough schedule where maybe they just play, no matter who the opponent is, it's just going to be a tough game. They're not going to blow out anybody. Their defense is good. The Cowboys are going to be mad after their showing in Arizona, but they're not going to get it easy. The key for this game, really, is Dallas's offense. I know they were out with some offensive linemen, and I think it'll be dicey, but I think this game is really, really close, but I think the Cowboys eke it out over the Patriots.
Yeah, I mean, the Dallas Cowboys defense didn't actually look that great against the Cardinals, an upset win for the Cardinals. But still, they're just a very good team, and the Patriots, they're not coming off of a great season. They're looking better, but still, I'm taking the Cowboys.
All right, next up, another divisional matchup. We got the Cardinals, who got their first win of the season, going to San Francisco. I know Arizona's played every team pretty close. I think that ends this week. I think the Cardinals, who have owned the 49ers, who have owned the Cardinals in recent history, dominate this game. Maybe they'll score 30 again for the fourth straight week. Give me the 49ers.
Yeah, for me, this one is pretty easy, but that's also what I said for the Dallas game. But still, 49ers, easy for me.
Next up, we got the Kansas City Chiefs going to play the New York Jets in MetLife Stadium on Sunday night. We wish we could flex this game out already because I think the Chiefs win easily by 2 touchdowns. This may be the last time we see Zach Wilson starting. This is the last chance. And I'll tell you what, Chiefs defense is pretty good.
Yeah,
Pretty good. I think they're underrated, and people are always going to think about Mahomes and Kelsey and their offense when they think about Kansas City, but their defense this year, pretty good. And I think the Jets are going to struggle to score 2 touchdowns. So give me the Chiefs and a laugher.
Yeah, Zach Wilson starting, I just don't think the quarterback play and the offense is going to be good enough on the Jets. Defending Super Bowl champions are going to take this one.
Next up, on Monday night, Seahawks 2-1 going to play the New York Football Giants. Giants have had extra time, a little half week to prepare for this game. Geno Smith's first time back to play in New York. He beat both the Giants and the Jets last year, but those games were at home. We'll be interested in seeing if Geno has a little extra chip on his shoulder for this game. I'm sure he does, but the key for this one is, will the Giants be able to block anybody? I don't know if they can, so give me the Seahawks.
Yeah, Seahawks looking pretty good, and of course the Giants not looking so great. So, yeah, I think the Seahawks are the better team. I have them on.
All right, those are our picks for Week 4. Thank you for watching. Have a great weekend watching football, and we'll be back on Tuesday with our recap. Take care, everyone.